Welcome in. Here we're going to learn to put bass drums into some rock fills. Grab the sheet music below and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to delve deeper into the world of using bass drums in fills, because we often don't do it. You know, just think of up top here playing with our hands, but incorporating bass drums into our fills can actually be really interesting and bring out some different ideas. Often linear based, but not always. But you'll often find when bass drums are introduced, it's in a linear phrase. Linear meaning only one thing being hit at a time. It's not exclusively linear. When you use the bass drum, you might hit a bass with a crash or play it underneath a fill with your hands. A classic example of a non-linear fill with bass drums is when you do quarter notes on the bass. Boom, 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 boom. And say like 16ths with the hands, like an old school rock type thing. So like, you know, there I had boom, boom, boom with the bass. But often it's a linear thing, and that's what we're mainly going to be looking at here today. So let's just get on with this. I'm gonna just explain each one and play it. So example one, let's get the time in first. So it goes 1 and 2 E and. So it's 2/8 and then 4/16, and then it does the same thing again. 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and. It's all just snares and basses. So it goes snare, bass, snare, 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 bass, snare, 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 snare. Quite an easy one, just to get us used to the idea of this. 3, 4. And of course, any fill is pretty useless unless you can play it with a beat. So whatever speed you can play the fill at, those 8th notes at the beginning, the snare, bass, that's the same speed as your hi-hats. So if you went, your beat would go. Number 2, very similar, but we've got some flams in there, just give it more beef. I was tempted to flam the last one, but I didn't because it's not a flam, and the next one is, so I wanted to differentiate. But example 2, flam, bass, just 8th notes, and then 4/16 notes on the snare, 4/16 on your tom 1, 3, 4. Okay, cool. So moving on to number 3, we're going to split it a little bit now. So we've got all 16. So what we're doing is 3 hands and 1 bass drum. So right, left, right, bass. Right, left, right, bass. You know, just repeating that phrase, work it first, snare and bass. And then all we're going to do is move it around the kit in a clockwise direction. You can do it however you want, but just to get you moving it, orchestrating it in a different way, we're going to just go around clockwise. 3 E and 4 E and. Alright, so I played it a bit quicker now. So what you've got to think about is, you know, we've done stuff like this before, but when you finish a fill with a bass drum, and then you also start the beat after it with a bass drum, you get boom boom, 2 bass drums. So the quicker you go with this fill, the harder that is to transition back to your beat, because your 2 bass drums are happening quite quickly. Just be aware of it. It's nothing, you know, nothing major, just be aware of that. Next one is the same thing, but we've just developed the orchestration a little bit more. So what we're doing here is snare, high tom, floor tom, bass. And it repeats that 4 times. And we'll still use the same sticking, right, left, bass. So it'll be right on the snare, left on the tom 1, and right on the floor tom. So again, ends with a bass drum. So as you loop back, you've got boom, boom. So just, you know, consider that at higher speeds. It's going to be tricky. All right, so we are flying through this. So number 5, same as number 3, but we've just flipped it around. So instead of snare, 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 bass, it's bass, snare, snare, snare. This can feel a bit weird leading with the bass. So let's go slow. 3, 4. Okay, sticking wise, it doesn't really matter, whatever you feel comfortable. Experiment, so try bass, left, right, left, I did that, and then also try bass, right, left, right. See what works for you. Doesn't really matter. I like left, right, left because then I end on the left, so my right hand can come back to the drum beat to start the beat. And I'll often prefer to do that, even if it can feel awkward at first. I'll often learn that sticking pattern, allowing my right hand to come back and start the next beat. At first it can seem awkward, but in the long run, in most cases I find that easier. Play around and you know, see what works for you. So let's look at number 6. So it's a dotted quarter note feel. And what we're doing, it's a 3-note pattern. And then, so number 6, for example, is going bass, snare, snare. That's your 3 notes. And it does again, bass, snare, snare, bass, snare, snare, bass, snare, snare, bass, snare, snare, bass, snare, snare. And then we've got an extra snare on the end to make it add up, because we're playing it over 16th notes. And that's where this is interesting, because you're playing bass, snare, snare, 3 notes over 16ths, which are grouped in 4s. So it's this 3-note phrase over a 4-note subdivision. Kind of makes it interesting, right? Because each phrase doesn't fit within each beat. But then 3s don't fit nicely into our 16th notes. So it, obviously 3 times 5 is 15. So we add a 1 snare at the end just to make it fit neatly. So this is number 6. 3 and a 4 and a. That last one on the end with a beat. Awesome, so let's move on to number 7. Same concept, but now we're going to start on a snare. So you go snare, snare, bass, 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 snare. So we've got that 1 snare on the end again to make it add up to 60 notes and resolve within 1 bar. So let's try that. So it's right, left, bass. 3, 4, ow. Cool. So sometimes I just randomly go off, but I wanted you to hear it a bit faster so you can start to go, oh yeah, I get it. That sounds quite cool as a feel. And then after a couple of goes of that, I also started to move it around the kit in groups of 2, like 2 snares, 2 tom, 2 tom. And then I started to split those and do like 1 snare and 1 tom. Boom, doom, doom, doom. So you can really, once you've learned all of these basic patterns, you can really get creative and move them around the kit and come up with, you know, like tens of different feels, variations on the same ideas, which is what we do. People look at drummers and go, they know so much stuff, but actually most drummers are pretty good at rehashing ideas, you know, just reworking them and making them sound fresh. So that's definitely something not to be ashamed of to get involved with. You have to keep reinventing the wheel. But let's look at the last one. So here we're going to play number 8. We're going to do 2 hands, 2 feet, and we're going to go right left with the hands. Right, left, bass, bass, right, left, bass, bass, right, left, bass, bass, right, left, bass, bass. Again, you can just learn it on snare and bass, and then we're going to move it clockwise around the kit with the hands. Now this finishes with 2 bass drums. So that means if you then loop it back into a beat, you're going to have another bass, that's 3. So that's quite challenging, especially when you get faster, because you're boom, boom, boom. But that's cool. You can work on your bass technique to make that happen, or you could just miss the last bass off. So you could go 4E and tom tom bass, right? So let me play the fill as it's written, and then I'll play it missing the last bass. You can get a feel for what I'm talking about. It's 3E and a 4E and a gaga boom at the end.
I hope you enjoyed it. You got to the end, so now you've got 8 examples of using bass drums in fills.
get the sheet music below. It's free and it's going to really help you master these. And remember to click subscribe now so that you get the next Total Drummer video when it comes out.